Hey everyone, welcome back to Titans Talk, the series dedicated to DC Universe's Titans. Today we're going to be talking about episode number 7, titled Asylum. Now the story of this episode is that the Titans find out that Raven's mother is still alive and in a mental institution, so Beast Boy and Raven decide to head off on their own, try and find her. Of course, Starfire and Robin are not far behind after they find out that they left. Eventually all four do get captured and subjected to their own personal torture inside of this asylum. To be quite honest, I was pretty worried about this episode. I really didn't expect a whole lot from it. As I said in my previous video when I saw the preview for it, I just really wasn't that excited about it. We've had some really great episodes, about 3 back-to-back, and this one just didn't look that great. I'm glad to say that it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, but it still wasn't quite great. In terms of acting, I don't feel like there was really any standouts in this episode. Pretty much everybody just sort of played their role or were in the background for the most part, especially Starfire and Beast Boy, and they did have a little bit of a moment for each of them, and I feel like they were able to really emphasize and really capture that moment as best as they possibly could in their limited appearance. The most time that we get within this episode is Robin with his backstory and his own personal sort of demons, I guess is the best way to put it. And he's essentially been the main focus for the past few episodes, despite the fact that Raven is essentially the main character here in terms of what's driving the story. And while we're on the topic of Robin, he definitely got the most sort of background and different things that really he got to do in this episode. Again, as I mentioned previously in several of my videos here of Titans Talk, Dick Grayson is one of the best characters for me, especially Robin, so him being the emphasis isn't necessarily a bad thing, but considering that this series is called Titans and is about those other Titans, I feel like that there should be a little bit more involved. But I did like to see with Dick going through his little bit of a drug trip, I guess is the best way to put it, that he essentially fights himself in the Batcave, or one of many Batcaves possibly. We even get to see a Batmobile again. Now last week when we met Jason Todd, we did get to see a little bit of a Batcave-ish, Batmobile-ish sort of things in the background. I didn't really mention it in the video just because it didn't really feel like the official sort of thing, but there were definitely hints there. But in this episode, we definitely got to see a lot more of that. Even though it's very much in the background and not really the focus of the action or what's happening, you still get to see it, which was nice. And we also get to see what may be the official end of Dick Grayson's run as Robin, as his suit does get destroyed in an explosion at the asylum, although how it gets destroyed, I'm really still kind of confused about this, considering that he didn't officially have it with him inside the asylum. Maybe it was in the car, but the explosion that happens was inside the asylum, which was not really near the car that we can tell. So there's a little bit of a confusion there. But the good news about that is that we may have the official turning point here into Dick becoming Nightwing, as he's officially lost the Robin costume. As last week we found out Jason Todd has taken up the Robin mantle from Dick Grayson. So maybe he can finally move on and start being his own hero, get away from that Robin shadow that he feels like he's constantly in and is constantly part of his identity, and really start a new identity and have that Nightwing persona come alive. Who's going to make his suit and how all that's going to come together, I don't know if we're going to get to see that or if he's just going to sort of have it in the next episode or down the line, but I feel like it may take a couple episodes before we get to that Nightwing storyline, but hopefully it's going to pay off, because now Dick really has to try and find himself without the Robin costume, which I think is going to be really interesting. Now, in terms of the writing, they made a lot of odd choices in this episode that I feel like I didn't quite understand, or feel like it kind of was not making a whole lot of sense, especially with a couple of the main characters. Let's go ahead and start with Robin. So, since we're already on Robin, he has this weird moment where he beats the crap out of a bunch of guards with what I can only call as a pipe or a wrench. And this thing looks pretty heavy. So he does some serious damage to a bunch of guards with this pipe or wrench. That's pretty brutal. But something that happens at the end of that is this sort of weird reflection moment that he has, that Dick sees like a puddle, and he sort of looks and he sees himself as Robin. So going back to that internal struggle, I think now that he has lost the suit, of Robin. He can finally move past seeing himself constantly as Robin, or having that dark shadow constantly follow him and sort of be that inner demon of his own personal demon, rather. So that'll be interesting to see how they move forward with that. Another really odd thing that happened is how the Asylum was so prepared for Starfire once she gets captured. They seemingly know how to sort of subdue her, whether it be through keeping her sort of in a darker area where her powers don't really work, or keeping her more in like a colder environment, it looked like. The way that they sort of handle her is very unique, because essentially Starfire doesn't even know anything about Starfire, let alone really anybody else. So how they are so prepared for a lot of what she is kind of doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but I think that maybe there might be something there, but Starfire's powers really don't manifest until much later in the episode for the most part, so maybe they just sort of thought she was normal, but when they sort of are experimenting on her, they do know that she's not of this earth or something along those lines, maybe some type of metahuman, but don't necessarily know much about her, if that makes sense. I don't know, it's just kind of confusing. Raven actually has kind of a cool thing, even though there's very limited of her, where she does kill Dr. Anderson not once but twice. That was actually kind of cool. Not necessarily because killing is cool, but because Anderson got what's coming to him the first time. He does get what's coming to him essentially because he's a real jerk. But I liked how he killed himself, but Raven brought him back. But with Raven getting sort of pissed off at him later, she's like, you know what, I take it back, and kills him again. That was actually Raven's one defining moment. I think that was her best moment in the entire episode. In terms of Beast Boy, again, another odd choice, but something that could really progress the character a lot. As he's being tortured, he finally gets released, and then he turns into his favorite tiger sort of animal, and he mauls the crap out of a guy, essentially killing him. I'm not sure if he technically eats him. As he's mentioned in a previous episode, he's never attacked or like eaten a human. But in this episode, it pretty much looks like he does. I mean, he's got the blood dripping from his mouth when he comes back to his human form. So, I mean, it looks like he's definitely got that taste. Now, how that's going to affect Beast Boy down the line, I'm not really sure. But I do like how maybe that could be an internal struggle of his, that now he's had that sort of real animal instinct and really attack someone or attack something like that. And how he's going to struggle with coping with that. Or will it be something, I don't want to say like he's going to have now the taste for human flesh or anything like that. But I feel like he's going to really struggle with, oh my God, I attacked a human, and really sort of question his own personal animal self, which may trigger himself into becoming more animals than just the tiger. Again, as I mentioned in a previous episode, he does very much rely on transforming into a tiger instead of other animals. So maybe this will trigger that, and maybe he'll sort of put the tiger on the shelf for now and be like, you know what, this, as myself, I mauled the dude as a tiger. Let me go ahead and try like maybe a mouse or something else. So hopefully that will help him progress into doing more things in the future. So overall, I would have to say that in the episode, it wasn't necessarily bad. It was just that they made a lot of strange choices, a lot of things that may develop into interesting character moments or motivations in the future. There were some good fight scenes, I will admit that, especially with Dick against essentially himself, as well as Dick against a bunch of guards, and they tried to have a Daredevil hallway fight type of thing going on. But there were a lot of interesting moments that I think that will drive this episode and cause characters to question themselves and even develop and grow. But in terms of fights, they were pretty good. Story was just very disjointed, and especially when it's a show about the Titans needing to come together and work together, the fact that they gave up so easy when they got to the Asylum and that they were essentially separated for, again, the majority of the episode, they really need to bring them all together. And I think that's what's really hurting this series most, is they keep taking this team and breaking them all apart and never really making them a team. The best glimpse that we've had of that was about 2 episodes ago when they actually got to work together against the nuclear family. But because they're so disjointed in those odd moments, even though mixed in with the good, the overall grade that I'm going to give episode 7 of Titans, titled Asylum, is the overall grade of a C+. Again, this episode wasn't necessarily bad. It was just that it felt very disjointed. Things need to be cleaned up here and there. And we really need to make an emphasis on the Titans coming together and actually working together, because I think that's really what's going to be the driving force of the show. Not necessarily we need to work together for now. But again, this is only the premiere season, so we're about halfway through it. I think just a little over halfway through it now. So they really need to get the ball rolling on that. We can only hope that it continues, but based on next week's episode preview, it looks like they're breaking up even further and once again breaking up the team. But we'll talk about that in next week's episode. Hopefully that one will be a good one, as I believe Wonder Girl is going to be in that one, even though it may be just her human persona, I guess. But that'll be interesting. But other than that, those are my thoughts on episode 7 titled Asylum. If you have seen the episode, make sure you let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Did you like the episode? Do you feel like it was very weird? Did you like the darkness of it? Did you like some of the brutality? There was a little bit more brutality here with both Beast Boy and Robin, and even actually Raven had a little bit more brutality with killing Dr. Anderson. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. But other than that, that's all I have for now. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.